Right now, there's probably a container of salt somewhere in your kitchen. You use it without thinking. A quick sprinkle over your fries, a pinch while cooking, or a little extra on your favorite snack. It's so common that most of us never stop to ask a simple question. What if salt suddenly disappeared? Not from the supermarket, from the entire world. No table salt, no salty food, no hidden sodium inside processed meals. How long could humans survive? The answer is surprising, not very long, because salt isn't simply something that makes food taste better. It is one of the few minerals your body absolutely depends on every single day. Without it, your muscles begin to weaken, your brain struggles to send signals, your heart can't beat normally, even the water inside your body falls out of balance. Long before money, long before cities, and even before the invention of farming, humans were already searching for salt. Not because they enjoyed the flavor, but because their bodies demanded it. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors had no salt mines, no grocery stores, no way to preserve or store large amounts of salt. Finding this precious mineral depended entirely on nature. Sometimes it came from the blood of freshly hunted animals, sometimes from mineral-rich springs, sometimes from strange patches of earth that looked different from the surrounding soil. Every discovery could mean the difference between life and death. And yet, the most fascinating part of this story isn't where humans found salt. It's why they never stopped looking for it. Imagine you're living 100,000 years ago. You're walking across an open grassland under the hot African sun. You've eaten enough meat, you've found fresh water, you have shelter for the night. But something still feels wrong. Your body feels tired. Your muscles cramp. You struggle to think clearly. The problem isn't hunger, it's something much smaller. Sodium. Every human cell depends on it. Tiny electrical signals travel through your nerves because sodium helps carry them. Your muscles contract because sodium keeps them functioning properly. Even your heartbeat relies on a delicate balance of this simple mineral. Without enough sodium, the body slowly begins to fail. Unlike vitamins, your body cannot produce sodium on its own. It has to come from the outside world. That means every human who has ever lived, from the earliest hunter-gatherers to people living today, has shared the same biological mission: find enough salt to survive. Nature solved this problem long before humans understood science. It placed sodium in rivers, mineral springs, rock deposits, and inside the bodies of animals. But these sources were never evenly spread across the landscape. Some regions contained plenty, others had almost none. For ancient people, finding salt wasn't part of a recipe, it was part of survival, and this constant search would eventually shape migration routes, influence hunting decisions, and even help build the first civilizations. But before humans learned how to make salt, they discovered something even more valuable. The animals already knew where it was. For thousands of generations, humans had no maps leading to salt, no mines, no wells, no traders selling bags of white crystals. So how did they find something their bodies desperately needed? The answer was surprisingly simple. They watched the animals. Long before humans became farmers, they were expert observers of nature. Every footprint, every broken branch, every migration, every unusual animal behavior carried valuable information. One pattern appeared again and again at certain times of the year. Large animals would suddenly leave their usual grazing grounds. They would travel for miles, sometimes even days, toward places that seemed completely ordinary. There was no fresh grass, no obvious food, yet the animals kept returning. Curious hunter-gatherers followed them. What they discovered changed everything. These places were rich in natural minerals. Today we call them salt licks. Across Africa, herds of antelope, buffalo, and elephants still travel great distances to reach these mineral-rich locations. They scrape the soil, lick exposed rocks, or drink water from underground springs filled with dissolved minerals. They're not doing it because they enjoy the taste. Their bodies are answering the same biological signal that humans feel today, the need for sodium. Our ancestors quickly realized something important. If dozens of healthy animals gathered at the same place, that location was valuable. Not only could it provide salt, it also became the perfect hunting ground. Instead of wandering endlessly across the wilderness, hunters simply waited where the animals were guaranteed to appear. One discovery solved two problems at once: food and sodium. Over time, these hidden mineral sites became part of human memory. Parents showed them to their children. Experienced hunters remembered them season after season. Entire groups planned their journeys around them. Long before roads existed, nature had already drawn invisible routes across the landscape. But animals weren't the only source of sodium. Sometimes, the land itself revealed its secret. After heavy rain, certain patches of earth dried into pale, crusty surfaces unlike the surrounding soil. Some adventurous humans tasted them. The flavor was strange, sharp, almost bitter, yet almost immediately. Their tired bodies felt stronger. What looked like ordinary dirt contained precious minerals. In some regions, people even mixed mineral-rich clay with water before consuming small amounts. It wasn't delicious, it wasn't clean, but it worked. When survival is your only goal, taste becomes far less important than staying alive. Every successful discovery was carefully remembered. Every failed attempt became a lesson, generation after generation. Humans built an invisible map of the world's hidden mineral sources. Without writing, without books, without science, only observation, experience, and shared knowledge. These discoveries helped people survive for thousands of years. But there was one major problem. Nature decided where salt existed, not humans. A spring could dry up. Animals could migrate somewhere else. A mineral deposit could become exhausted. Every time that happened, the search began all over again, eventually. Our ancestors grew tired of depending entirely on luck. Instead of searching for salt, they asked a revolutionary question. Could we make it ourselves? That question would change human history forever. For thousands of years, humans searched for salt. They followed animal trails, visited mineral springs, and collected salty soil whenever they found it. But nature was unpredictable. One year, a spring flowed with mineral-rich water. The next year, it might dry up completely. A hunting ground that once attracted hundreds of animals could suddenly become empty. Depending on nature alone was risky. So slowly, people began asking a new question. Instead of searching for salt, could they produce it themselves? It was one of humanity's greatest discoveries. The answer came from the sea. Imagine standing on a quiet coastline thousands of years ago. After a hot day, you notice something unusual. Small pools of seawater trapped between rocks have almost disappeared. The water is gone, but tiny white crystals remain. Curious people touched them, then tasted them. It was salt. Nature had revealed one of its oldest secrets. Sunlight alone could separate salt from seawater. Soon, people started helping nature. Instead of waiting for small rock pools to dry naturally, they dug shallow ponds near the coast. These ponds were filled with seawater, then left under the blazing sun, day after day. The water slowly evaporated. As the last drops disappeared, sparkling white salt crystals covered the ground. For the first time, humans weren't just finding salt, they were producing it. Far from the sea, people discovered another method. Some regions had natural salt springs. The water tasted unusually salty. Instead of drinking it, they collected it in large clay pots. A fire burned beneath the pots for hours. As the water turned into steam, only the salt remained. It required patience, wood for fuel, and constant attention. But the reward was worth the effort. Communities no longer depended entirely on luck. They could create one of life's most essential minerals whenever conditions allowed. Salt quickly became more than food. It became a tool. Fresh meat spoiled within days, fish rotted quickly during long winters or dry seasons. This created a serious problem. Then someone noticed something remarkable. Meat covered with salt stayed fresh much longer. Fish packed in salt could survive long journeys. Food that once lasted only days could now last for weeks, sometimes even months. Suddenly, families could store food for difficult times. Travelers could carry supplies across great distances. Villages became less vulnerable to famine. A simple white crystal had quietly transformed human survival. But salt's importance was only beginning. As production increased, something unexpected happened. People realized salt wasn't just valuable for eating, it was valuable for trading. Soon, entire villages began exchanging salt for tools, clothing, pottery, and precious goods from distant lands. What had once been a survival necessity was becoming one of the world's first valuable commodities. And before long, kings, merchants, and entire empires would compete to control it. Salt was no longer just a mineral, it had become power, as villages grew into towns, and towns became kingdoms. The demand for salt exploded. Every family needed it. Every traveler carried it. Every soldier depended on it. Without salt, food spoiled quickly. Armies couldn't travel far. Long-distance trade became almost impossible. The people who controlled salt controlled something every society needed. Soon, natural salt deposits became some of the most valuable places on Earth. Communities settled nearby, markets appeared, trade routes stretched across deserts, mountains, and vast grasslands. Merchants loaded salt onto camels, boats, and wagons, transporting it hundreds of miles to places where it was almost impossible to find. In many regions, salt became as valuable as precious metals. A single shipment could support an entire village for months. People exchanged grain, cloth, livestock, and handcrafted tools for blocks of salt. The white crystal had become a form of wealth. Governments quickly recognized its importance. Some rulers claimed ownership of every salt mine within their borders. Others placed heavy taxes on its trade. Anyone who wanted salt had to pay. The mineral that once lay unnoticed on the ground had become a source of political power. Throughout history, entire roads were built to transport salt safely. Busy marketplaces grew where traders met to exchange it. Some ancient cities became rich simply because they sat beside important salt routes. Others declined when those routes changed. Even wars were influenced by salt. Kings fought to control valuable mines. Armies protected trade caravans carrying this precious cargo because whoever controlled the flow of salt often controlled the economy itself. But salt's influence reached beyond trade and politics. It quietly transformed everyday life. Families could preserve meat after a successful hunt. Fishermen could store their catch for weeks instead of days. Food could travel farther than ever before. Communities became less dependent on each day's hunt or harvest. For the first time, people could prepare for difficult seasons with confidence. In many ways, salt gave humanity something priceless: time to build cities, time to invent new technologies, time to explore distant lands. A simple mineral had become one of civilization's greatest foundations, yet despite all its value, most people today hardly think about it. We buy it for almost nothing. We keep it on every kitchen table, and we rarely stop to imagine the extraordinary journey that brought it there. But there's one final mystery. If salt was so valuable in the past, why do humans still crave it today? The answer isn't found in history, it's written inside your own body.